Thank you, Sakina. And the team top stories at 1 Masamula to study a report on Mashatile's VIP Presidential Protection Unit, and Houthis and the US agree on a ceasefire deal. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good day. National Police Commissioner Fani Masamula says he will study the report on the acquittal of 8 members of Deputy President Paul Mashatile's VIP Presidential Protection Unit. It emerged yesterday that the police officers have been cleared by an internal police disciplinary process. They are out on 10,000 rand bail each. They face several charges, including assault, malicious damage to property, and pointing of firearm. This after a video surfaced of them allegedly assaulting civilians on the N1 highway in Johannesburg in 2023. They have since returned to work after their disciplinary hearing. Masamula says he will give an update after studying the report following their acquittal.
I learned of that. As I said yesterday, I will study the report together. Myself and the legal service will study that report of the presiding officer, and we will then update the nation in terms of what we find and what is the way forward.
South Africa will face natural gas shortages from next year despite the country's vast underground gas discoveries. Petroleum Agency of South Africa acting CEO Dr. Bongani Saidini says gas has been discovered in South Africa between 2019 and 2020. However, experts say this may not help the country in curbing the looming shortage of natural gas used by local manufacturers. South Africa is currently depending on gas from Mozambique that is close to ending its gas life cycle. Saidini was speaking in a panel discussion at the Wits Gas Symposium today.
We have not found gas in this country, not in commercial quantities. I have just demonstrated and articulated the fact that gas was found in 2019-2020 through the Brelpada and Leipert wells by Total Energies and partners. Gas that is that is now held by Main Street with technical partners in Africa Energy. We've got their representatives here. Those are discoveries.
The Special Investigating Unit says those involved in corruption and take assets to other member states can be traced. This as the 15th Commonwealth Regional Conference of Heads of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Africa continues in Cape Town today. Leaders and stakeholders from 21 African nations are meeting to develop actionable strategies. SIU head Andy Mutibi says the unit is now using technology to secure better results.
An important part, as we discussed yesterday, was the use of technology, because as you know, cyberspace is really being used by those who commit white-collar crimes, corruption, fraud. So we are seeking to ensure, we've been sharing some of the developments here. We've got an expert from UK that presented around the use of artificial intelligence, and out of that there's going to be a program where, because at SIU we are already doing some data analytics, data modeling, so that we can determine the exposures. So that builds towards the use of AI as well, the tools that we use.
The ANC has confirmed successful discussions with the Afrikaner Leadership Network, which includes Solidariteit and AfriForum. The Pan-Africanist Congress, who has had previous engagements with both sides, facilitated the meeting, which took place on Tuesday evening. PAC Secretary General Ababoye says the meeting was set up to discuss matters of common interest, and all respective parties have identified issues they are committed to finding solutions to.
The respective parties held a robust and frank discussion on various issues of national interest. The dialogue was clear indication that as South Africans, we have a collective responsibility to address the challenges that our nation faces. The parties have identified issues around which we are committed to find South African solutions in the interest of diverse and united nations. For us, as the PAC, it was more like a 1994 reset party.
Oman has announced its mediated ceasefire deal between the U.S. and Houthis in Yemen. The Omani foreign minister said both sides had agreed not to target each other. Oman's confirmation came shortly after President Trump said the U.S. would stop bombing the Iranian-backed group with immediate effect. The BBC's Hugo Bachega has more.
This was a surprise announcement by President Trump, who said the Houthis had told the United States they didn't want to fight anymore. Oman then announced it had acted as a mediator. It said the deal included an end to attacks by the Houthis on U.S. vessels in the Red Sea. In return, the U.S. will stop its bombardment of their positions in Yemen. This marks a significant shift for the Houthis, who are supported by Iran and have been carrying out those attacks since late 2023.
Recapping the top story, National Police Commissioner Fani Masamula says he will study the report on the acquittal of 8 members of Deputy President Paul Mashatile's VIP Presidential Protection Unit. I'm on Delambana for SFM News Headlines at 1:30.
He's short, loud, and definitely not a licensed therapist, but he's asking the hard questions. It's Heart to Heart with Kevin, the only talk show where the guests spill the tea and Kevin spills the jokes. Real talk, real laughs, and real short host. Heart to Heart with Kevin, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on S3.
It takes a while before these arch rivals meet in the final. But when they do, everything stops. Nabi is confident to delight the Amakosi fans.
If the fans love Kaiser Chiefs, automatically is love Nabi.
While the back-to-back victor, Rivero, chases the 3rd consecutive title.
Whenever it's time to go, we're going with the intention to be competitive, to try to be better than the opponent.
This is the Nedbank Cup final. Witness the Soweto Derby. Gold and Black battles it out with Black and White on Saturday, 10 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then on SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. You are listening to The Full Circle.
Let's take it back to the Living it that way. Said the city don't feel me.
You know, I've heard this song for so many years. I mean, there was the year when it dominated, right? Completely dominated. This is the first time I'm actually hearing Kyle Deutsch's actual harmony at the end of the song. It's like, who's that male coming in? Kyle Deutsch and Shakana coming through with Taking It Back to the Beach. And my producers were like, you know what? We're counting down now until, far lesser warmer days. So let's just enjoy the last couple of days of sunshine and pretending as though we can still take it to the beach. And let's play a little Back to the Beach we go. So I hope it livened up your mood just a little bit. Wonderful jam, beautiful track. That one, great collaboration. It is The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM, leading the conversations that move the nation. And coming up today, we're looking at balancing freedom of expression and cyberbullying, trying to explore the boundaries here, as well as maybe getting a proper understanding of the parameters of freedom of expression. And when do we err on the side of now bullying? When do we err on the side of now really just being venomous to someone else, but hiding under the cloak of its freedom of expression? So that conversation is coming up. And I think we know what sort of necessitated this, right? We've watched the events that have transpired in the last 2 weeks or so, yet again with TV personality Minnie Dlamini finding herself on really just the vile end of commentary by podcaster Mac G. And it sparked this whole conversation about, things like cyberbullying, ramifications. How do we hold people in certain media platforms that don't necessarily subscribe to the conduct code of the BCCSA, like podcasts, where there's no real regulations, no real standard of operation and guidelines that have been set out for them? How do we hold them accountable to the regulations that the rest of us really answer to? So we're going to have that conversation. And then we are going to touch base with a young entrepreneur. Uratang Patla is going to be joining us, and we're going to find out about her journey with tea and being in the tea business, but from a very interesting perspective as well. On the other side of 2 o'clock, this should be an interesting conversation, right? Because South Africa is said to have a very high rate of alcohol consumption. We know this. I think we sit in the top 10. It's one of those top 10 lists that we really should not be proud of. South Africa is said to have a high rate of alcohol consumption. We rank as one of the world's largest per capita consumers of alcohol. We consume it recreationally. We consume it celebratory. We consume it. It's in every mood and in every occasion, good or bad. We consume alcohol. So we wanted to have a conversation about functional alcoholism. Functional alcoholism, when you have the capacity to still function and arrive for your day-to-day tasks, work, parenting, being present, contributing, but you really are intoxicated. Really, you are addicted. You are an alcoholic, but you just have the capacity to function, to some degree. So we're going to have that conversation with Utando, who's the author of On the Rocks, a memoir of a high-functioning alcoholic. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, perhaps some of your experiences. We were just talking with my team that some of us have encountered colleagues that are functional alcoholics that come to work every single day, reeking of alcohol. We all see the signs. Perhaps you even see the signs of personality cracking. What do we do about it? What do you do about it? 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. It is The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM.
The Northwest Legislature Portfolio Committee on Corporate Governance, Human Settlements and Traditional Affairs will be conducting public hearings on Independent Municipal Demarcation Authority Bill 2023 on 7 May 2025 at Legislature Auditorium in Mahikeng, Nakamudiri District, Sarafina Community Hall and Potchefstroom Room, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District, Kismet Community Hall in Kismet, Riebeck, Dr. Ruth Sohomutsi Mompati District, and Rustenburg in Old Town Hall, Bujanala District. All hearings start at 10.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, we are catching up with social media legal consultant and cyber safety enthusiast Lerato Ntwampe is joining us. She's no stranger to the show, often guiding us through conversations around the legalities that surround social media use, and especially when we're talking around issues of safety, issues of cyberbullying. And we know that freedom of expression is a fundamental right that's enshrined in many constitutions worldwide, including ours here in South Africa. It's actually a cornerstone of just democratic societies, right? This should allow us as individuals to express our personal opinions, to share information, and to engage in public discourse. However, we can't take it too far. We can cross the line that ultimately amounts to it becoming cyberbullying and no longer freedom of speech. How are you doing, Lerato? You good?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Let's try and start at some base point, right? When we're talking freedom of expression, freedom of speech, cornerstone for democratic societies worldwide.
Absolutely, and it is enshrined in our constitution as well in section 16, that everybody has a right to freedom of expression, obviously which includes freedom of press and other media, freedom to receive and impart information or ideas, freedom of artistic creativity and academic freedom, as well as academic freedom and freedom of scientific research. But however, the right to freedom of expression is not an absolute right. So it doesn't mean that because you have this right, it doesn't extend to propaganda for war, incitement of imminent violence, and obviously the advocacy of hatred that is based on race, ethnicity, gender, or religion. Obviously that constitutes incitement to cause any harm.
Now, Lerato, when we add in the factor of living in the digital era, how is this then complicated or maybe redefined or stretched this right? Digital era, social media specific.
Sure. I think it has created so many problems because, previously, before the digital age, if you were defamed, it was normally usually by a newspaper or some press or, press media. It didn't really happen that often between individuals. It would always be usually public figures or somebody writing about you in a newspaper. But I think now, because everybody has a device, everybody, has a platform where they can voice out their opinions, they forget about other people's rights. I think even the notion of freedom of expression, in a digital space, people think that they have a free to all, but unfortunately what we're seeing is that it's causing a lot of harm, and people are hiding behind this freedom of expression without actually knowing that it is not an absolute right, and that there is a limitation clause that prevents you from obviously infringing on other rights that exist in the Constitution.
And I think that's the thing, right? We sort of hide behind the cloak of its freedom of expression. If we bring it a bit closer to social discourse that has been happening for the last 2 weeks, and we've seen Minnie Dlamini, unfortunately, once again, being at, facing the end of a barrel with what is disguised as freedom of expression, freedom of speech. It kind of tells me that we may not know how to balance this right as South Africans. We may not know where the limits are.
Yes, I think that's the problem. I think people don't know the limits, and I think some people actually do know the limits, but they know when to sort of stop, but it doesn't stop the person from being offended or being humiliated or having their human dignity being infringed upon. And I think people think when they think cyberbullying, they think, they have to hurt you in some sort of way, but there is certain comments that can actually hurt other people. So I always say that your right to freedom of expression ends where you engage in discriminatory expression that is harmful and that it is hateful. And obviously by harmful, causing or likely to cause harm, and then hurtful, it causes distress to somebody's feelings, and that is obviously based on prohibited grounds that exist in other legislation like PEPUDA, which is the promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act.
Let's talk a little bit about, and I mean, you touched on it in the definition, right? The definition of freedom of expression. And that speaks to, I guess, alludes to several legal frameworks around it. Let's touch a little bit both on a local and international perspective, because we also don't talk in domestic silos anymore. All conversations that happen in the digital age are essentially borderless conversations.
Yes, absolutely. So when obviously for South Africans, our primarily thing when we speak about freedom of expression, we speak about the Constitution, and then within the constitutional framework there is also PEPUDA. So PEPUDA, what's nice about PEPUDA is that it extends the three bases that I spoke about, which is obviously race, religion. So PEPUDA includes other factors as well, such as marital status, ethnicity, social origin, color, sexual orientation, age, disability, religion, conscious belief, culture. So sex, which also includes intersex. So it has those prohibited grounds which extend, the expression and the advocacy of hatred. And then obviously we have the Protection from Harassment Act, which obviously aims to look at things like online harassment, which has something that people have been battling with quite a bit when it comes to online space. And I think when we speak about bullying in particular, that act specifically does cover it, Protection from Harassment Act, because I don't need to know you, I don't need to be in a domestic relationship with you for that specific act to apply. So that's quite a good act to consider if you are being cyberbullied. That's one of them. And obviously if you are in a relationship, then the Domestic Violence Act would be the one that would cover you in terms of harassment or cyberbullying. If it involves anything that's related to your sexuality, so revenge pornography, then we'd look at the Film and Publication Amendment Act. And can also look at Cyber Crimes Act, which also looks at malicious communication, so revenge pornography, cyber fraud, sextortion. And if it relates to, so the bullying relates to your personal information, doxing, so somebody basically, calling other bullies to sort of join in us harassing this.
We've just got cut from Lerato. We're going to try and connect back with her again. Don't know what was the technical glitch there, but as we try and get her back, just a reminder of our in-studio lines. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to send through a WhatsApp voice note on this topic and conversation, you're more than welcome to do so. 086-000-2032. I can hear that we've got Lerato back on the line. Apologies for that, Lerato. Don't know what glitched out
worries.
there.
I also don't know what happened.
Maybe we can just continue on that thought, because before I jump off with my next thought, because I did want to ask you around sort of addressing issues of cyberbullying, aka disguised as freedom of speech, given also the context that we now see it even filtering into global leaders, where you'd expect them to have a certain decorum and a certain conduct, a certain measurement in how they engage themselves. But, you see how in sort of the realm of social media, there seems to be no boundaries of what we say and how we say it.
Yeah, and it's primarily, Bridget, because, most of the social media, especially South African context, we very seldom, have rules or regulations that actually these social media platforms have to adhere to. They have their own community standards, which sometimes they don't even, enforce. I mean, trying to report, a post that's either defamatory or that is considered hate speech is such a gruesome process, especially those platforms that don't exist in the African continent, like X, that don't have a head office. It's very difficult to try and enforce some of these rules and measures in place. I think people or these tech companies come here and they basically just do their own thing. It's not like in Europe where, there are very stringent rules in terms of how people conduct themselves and some of the fines that these digital platforms actually get if they don't adhere to, specific rules within the country. So as much as we have all these wonderful platforms, unfortunately, most of them don't even abide to the Constitution. And it takes somebody, with a financial muscle who can sue. Even that is sometimes very complicated to be able to get a takedown notice to take down certain content that is posted online. So they don't adhere to our rules, which is why regulation is so important. And, as there's always a disconnect between law and technology given in the pace at which each develops, and we're constantly trying to play catch up. But South Africa currently does have a draft white paper which seeks to look at the audio and audiovisual medium services as well as online content safety. And obviously this aims to modernize the legal framework for these audio and audiovisual content services, and also to just have a licensing and regulatory framework which will obviously include them and focus on online safety and addressing some of these online harms by user-generated content.
I want us to take a quick pause for the headline news, and we'll come back on the other side and we'll continue our conversation with Lerato, as a social media legal consultant and cyber safety enthusiast and expert, and oftentimes sharing her expertise with us on the show to help us traverse this theme that's forever evolving, really, because it evolves as fast as we evolve with our engagement on social media, but we need to keep having the discourse. Let's get into the headline news. Ondelambana is standing by, and then we'll come back on the other side. Our WhatsApp lines are open for you if you want to share your perspective on 061-410-4107. You can send us a WhatsApp note or voice note, or 086-000-2032. Do you think that we should get, more stringent regulation to regulate what is non-conventional media, looking at podcasts, for instance? What kind of regulatory framework should be there for podcasts, as well as social media? What do we do to regulate an open market, open expression space such as that? 1:30 on The Full Circle.
Thank you, Bridget. On the news headlines, National Police Commissioner Fani Masamula says he will study the report on the acquittal of 8 members of Deputy President Paul Mashadile's VIP Presidential Protection Unit. The Portfolio Committee on COGTA in the Gauteng Legislature is holding discussions on the Independent Municipal Demarcation Authority Bill in Johannesburg today. And Pakistan's National Security Committee is discussing the next steps following a dramatic overnight escalation in tensions with India. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Rise and shine every weekday morning on Expresso.
Now, whether it's a motivational Monday or even a health Tuesday, this is the best way to start your day.
Let our trending tech keep you ahead of the curve.
Join us online and vote in our fashion poll.
elevate your cooking skills every Wednesday.
It's the best and morning entertainment.
So wake up with us.
6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
Cheers.
Bafana want to seal their envelope to East Africa with a paramount victory in front of their home fans. But the Flames plan to double the heat. This is the second leg of the final round of the Total Energies CAF Chan 2025 qualifiers. South Africa tackles Malawi on Sunday, 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC2 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are catching up with social media legal consultant and cyber safety enthusiast and expert Lerato Ntwambi joining us, and we're trying to have a conversation balancing freedom of expression and cyberbullying. Felix in Midrand says, "Hey Bridget, a very tricky one, this one. The legacy media is self-regulated in South Africa." Okay, not self-regulated, but we answer to regulatory bodies. So is social media. And that's why you get some accounts and content banned, blocked, suspended as a result of complaints received. The most high profile being that of Trump on X then. With social media being ubiquitous as it is, countering undesirable content is immediate, open, and democratic. So we'll be complaining about such content and accounts, something you won't encounter with, say, a BCC. I don't know if I'm interpreting that comment correctly there, Felix Lerato.
I mean, I hear what he's saying, but it's not necessarily always the case. I think with Trump, because obviously his behavior was so problematic, and obviously X is a United States entity, they were able, to take those steps to obviously platform him or suspend his account, remove his account. And it happens obviously with big leaders who have great influence. We saw also, a few years ago where Julius Malema was also sort of banned on social media or suspended for quite some time. So we do see it sometime happening, but with a regular person online trying to get an account suspended or trying to get your information or like a post that's defamatory removed is so hectic. It's such a process, especially with X. Meta also recently announced that they would also be reducing, the number of online moderators, and those are the people who actually are given this job to obviously look at all the content, look at the reports, see what is considered hate speech, see what's considered bullying, and in most of the cases it's failed. I mean, just last year there was a case, where the flag, where obviously the flag was the apartheid flag was considered to be hate speech. You can't just be displaying that around. But actually, Meta's policy said no. They actually didn't see that it's not considered hate speech. It was obviously escalated, to be now reviewed again. But you can already see the sense that if a South African in South African context, waving a apartheid flag is considered hate speech, but the platform doesn't see it as hate speech. There's a bit of a discrepancy there, and how do we expect them to enforce our rights when something as simple as that is not considered hate speech? So there are those problems that unfortunately do exist when it comes to social media platforms.
Yeah. Someone just wrote us saying that regulating podcasts will not distinguish them from conventional media. Also, we ought to listen not to be reactionary, because at times we miss the operative words and be quick to lambast and critique.
I don't necessarily agree with him. I think podcasts definitely need to be regulated in South Africa, not obviously as the same approach as like too strict. I think people think regulation and they think censorship, but that's not the case. I think, with the proposed white paper on audio and audiovisual media services and online content safety, how they basically, word it, it's not going to be, you won't be applying for a license to have a podcast. What essentially we will be doing is that we'll be notifying a specific regulator that, hey, I exist. And this is helpful because, I've seen it in the cases that come through my practice, where sometimes it's difficult to even trace who the podcast belongs to.
Yeah.
But if there's a regulator and there's a list that, okay, there's SAFM that exists, there's Lerato's podcast that exists, there's Ntabi Singh's podcast that exists. If Ntabi Singh offends me, I'm able to go to the regulator, get a database, and lay a complaint like you would with the BBC SA. And also, I think they will also provide digital education, because essentially what happens is that some of these podcasts, they just listen to nonsense. Some of them listen to very, very sad stories, sexual stories. They don't provide a trigger warning. They don't tell you that that's what you're going to do. And in terms of South African law, you have to warn, you need to have some sort of consumer advisory that, hey, listen, this content is going to be triggering. I've seen it also in some of the cases that I've had to deal with where children are not protected. A parent will be there speaking about how their child was sexually assaulted, but they will name the child, they will name the school that they go to, they will name the perpetrator or the suspect. And that's not really a conducive way to do it, because now what happens to this child's dignity? Because I've seen the podcast, I know exactly who they are, I can Google them. So those measures that, this white paper aims to do, or how we can see, podcasts being regulated, is that there will be regular training on how to handle guests, how to handle sensitive topics, what kind of language to use. Do you say it's an accused? Do you say it's a suspect? They'll teach them on how to report on children so that they can avoid, some of the reputational harm and avoid, some of the issues that we keep seeing with podcasts. I can tell you now, the urgent court, semi-urgent courts, they inundated with, applications where people are, seeking some sort of relief, seeking an interdict because somebody has said something horrible about them on a podcast.
Sure. Let's try and sneak in some WhatsApp voice notes as well as we prepare to wrap up the conversation.
Afternoon, Bridget and Ratu there. Thanks for the information. We're speaking to Hapolo Koya in Kuruman. Look, I would like Ratu to when he explains, just to pop in some examples, just to make some issues clear. Like I've got a question. For example, if I say the president is useless, am I abusing my freedom of speech, or am I expressing my freedom of speech? Yeah. Just pop in some examples so that we can understand clearly. Thank you.
Hi, Bridget. Thank you for the informative conversation. You know what? The problem in South Africa is not the regulations part of it. The problem in South Africa is the enforcement of the regulations. We've got all the laws in place, but there is no enforcement. That's why everybody just do whatever they do, and the only thing that we can do is to come into the radio platform and condemn it, and that's it. The offender will never be subjected to law, be subjected to anything. So people just continue doing it because they know nothing is going to happen to them. Thank you very much, Bridget. Rodney in Begersford.
All right. Lerato, just your final sentiment on this as we wrap up the conversation.
I think, with relating to podcasts, I think, we need to look at self-regulation and co-regulation. And then obviously in terms of digital literacy, I think is very, very important, because I think some of us really don't understand, where we need to draw the line. But I think, what the last person said is also quite important. Sometimes we do have all the laws and the policies that exist, but the enforcement is hard. And I think relating to podcasts, sometimes it's very difficult to get legal relief because it requires money. You're not going to rush to the High Court because somebody has defamed you. What if you don't have the funds? Just to get into the High Court, you need at least 100,000 rand. So I think, with regulation of certain platforms as well as podcasts, will be able to provide that relief, because you don't need to rush to a high court, because that's where you can get an interdict, for you to get a certain podcast removed or to have somebody apologize to you. So I think co-regulation, self-regulation is important, so that everybody in South Africa has that fair opportunity to get legal relief.
Absolutely. Lerato Ndwampe, as always, thank you so much for the time. Lerato is a social media legal consultant and cyber safety enthusiast and expert. Let's take a quick pause. We'll be right back.
Hi everyone, my name is Itumele Nkune, SABC Sport football analyst. When I feel down and I listen to gospel, it gives me motivation. I'm a person who loves all genres. If I was a chef, my favorite meal that I would prepare would be pap, cabbage, meaty bones, with a bit of acha on the side. My favorite language is Portuguese. Bom dia, como está? Estou bem. What I like about SABC Sport is they give you the platform and the permission to be yourself and speak any language.
Catch the ever-passionate Itumele Nkune's analysis of Ibola Letu on match days, live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Made in SA with Bridget Masinga.
All right, as we get into this conversation now, catching up with Ritang Patla, who's the CEO of Setong Tea Crafters, and they are an award-winning agri-business and vehicle for development of indigenous flora that's found in the natural landscapes of South Africa and operating primarily out of the Limpopo area. How are you doing this afternoon, Ritang?
Good afternoon, Bridget. I'm well, thanks, and you?
Oh, listen, you sound like you're having a chipper day. I'm great. I'm great, thank you. So give us some background on this mom and daughter business that has evolved into something that has a whole bunch of components to it now.
Yes, there are truly quite a number of different components. So we are primarily a tea manufacturing business based in Limpopo, Sekhukhune, and we work with indigenous knowledge holders and practitioners within the rural areas that have a lot of knowledge on indigenous plants and herbs that has been consumed for hundreds of years by the Bapedi people but was never commercialized. And there was so much history and heritage behind these plants, but, we found that no one was really looking at it commercially. So we developed a whole value chain in order to create a platform for these indigenous plants and teas to access the market. So we work with, around 30 youth and women in Sekhukhune, and we also work with 3 different harvesting groups within the area to do everything from wild harvesting, processing. We do some value addition in the form of tea blending and packaging and distribution to the mainstream retailers in South Africa. And we've developed a whole range of different infusions that speak to the modern consumer. And it also meets different health benefits as well.
I mean, talk to us about some of your unique selling already the entire company has a unique selling proposition, but in terms of the ingredients that you fused in and that indigenous knowledge that you fused in, South Africa is synonymous for its rooibos, of course, but there are other things here that we could be exploring with tea, as you are now teaching us.
Absolutely. So South Africa is the third most biodiverse country in the world, but we really just know about rooibos tea, and there's so much more to explore, and we've only just barely scraped the surface. So two of the plants we're working with are the Tepane black bush tea and the Dia red root tea. Now, starting with the Tepane black bush tea, it is a species of African mistletoe that the Bapedi people have been drinking as tea for many years, and they, the traditional knowledge behind it was that this tea was really good for the hormones, good for improving the immune system. When a young girl is experiencing period pains as well, it helps to relieve those pains. It helps to provide a natural boost of energy. Then we had the tea analyzed and found that it naturally contains magnesium, zinc, vitamin A, C, E, and a variety of different amino acids. So that really validated those indigenous claims. And it also has a lovely flavor to it as well. It's got a natural vanilla taste. It doesn't have any caffeine in it. So it's really pleasant to drink as your daily tea on a daily basis. And, as Africans, a lot of these traditional herbs, sometimes we immediately just think that they taste bitter, but there's actually some really pleasant herbs that are naturally growing, similar to rooibos tea.
Wonderful.
Then, the Dia red root tea is a root that is similar to the African potato, and you can have both the root and the leaves as tea. So we use the root mostly because it is available all year round, and we just shred it and dry it, and traditionally it was used for high blood pressure, sugar, cholesterol, and the analysis of that is that it contains a variety also of antioxidants. It contains fiber and zinc as well as calcium. So it's really good for your gut health and digestive system, and it also helps to manage your blood sugar levels and cholesterol. So we used these two teas to develop a range of 8 different infusions that have everything from sleep teas to detox teas, energy teas, hormone balance teas as well. And we used other complementary herbs and spices just to also, entice consumers with the flavors as well.
You know what I also love, Ratang, about what you and your mom have built with the community of women in Sekhukhune, is the fact that it's gone now beyond tea, and you've implemented the model that if you travel a lot, if you go to Mauritius, you know that you would have gone to the black tea factory, and then you roll your eyes and you realize, it's just normal tea, Moss. It's not like, if you've gone to Thailand, Bali, you would have done some kind of tea tour. And we've been missing something like that in South Africa, and you guys are building sort of that kind of added extension to your business in Limpopo.
Yeah, it's really exciting. We've got a tea tour and cultural experience that you can experience at our farm in Limpopo. And, we teach visitors about more than just Tepane and Dia, but also about other indigenous plants, how they were indigenously processed and used. And we also introduce visitors to the different indigenous foods that are available in Limpopo as well, that Bapedi people have been eating, that are very delicious but also very nutritious. So we teach people around how food is medicine, and how, there was so much wisdom in that ancient knowledge, and it also involves a cultural experience with singing and dancing and indigenous games. So it's great for children as well. So we do get schools coming through to learn about the culture and the indigenous food as well. And we get corporates coming to do, some team building exercises. You can also do a tea blending class as well, where you can make your own tea infusion and take it
Wonderful.
home. So there's a lot that we offer.
I know that you on the World Wide Web as sitongtea.com for those who want to make online orders and have a look at your offering. But as we wrap up the conversation, do you also physically stock anywhere?
Yes. So you can order online at www.sitongtea.com, which is spelled SETSONG. And then we also supply all of the Food Lovers Market stores across the country, as well as selected spa stores across the country. So you can visit our website as well to see all the retailers that have our products on the shelf.
I am definitely, there's a Food Lovers Market across the street. I am definitely going there today. And I'm going to sample some of your product. Thank you very much for the time. And a job well done to you and Mom for coming together and making this vision a reality. That was Ritang Patla. You can find her teas. She's the CEO of Sitong Tea Crafters. On sitongtea.com is where you can go to have a look at what they do. And should you find yourself in the Limpopo area, it might be worth your while to also go through and have the tea tour and tea tasting experience. Why not? We do these things when we're in other places. We might as well do them when we're at home as well, right? Let's take a quick pause and then we'll come back on the other side of this and continue with the show. I feel like, what, are we having some technical difficulties? There's something that seems to be going on behind the scenes here. But let's see if Dumsani Mahlangu is standing by for us, who's the municipal manager of Tembisile local municipality. And we're looking at the e-recruitment model, which is a local government system to address the recruitment processes. It's launching in July and it's aimed at transforming how local government recruits. How are you doing this afternoon, Dumsani?
Jed, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much. Cannot complain. So, okay, let's talk about Tembisile local municipality in Mpumalanga. You guys have recently launched an e-recruitment platform that's integrated into your enterprise content management system. Talk to me about that.
Thanks, Bridget, and that's great. The listeners of SAFM. So on the 1st of July, we're basically introducing electronic recruitment within the municipality. I think it's the first of its kind. And what it basically does, it encompasses a digitized recruitment management system, in particular via the internet, whereby we're just replacing a paper-based or manual management of our recruitment processes in order for us to streamline our hiring practices for the benefit of all users. That's basically what the e-recruitment is all about.
Okay. So the role of digital innovation in addressing employment, I mean, the benefit that this will have for your municipality, for instance.
Yeah, look, I think we are living now in a highly digitized environment. And it's about time that government, especially local government, also in terms of our efficiencies, improving our efficiencies and effectiveness, so that we move towards that space and just move away from this paper-based manual way of doing things. And this is a decision, Bridget, which was taken by our strategically hold under the 6th administration that is led by Executive Mayor Dihale. So we took this conscious decision that we're going to digitize the majority of the systems which we have within the municipality.
But by way of enhancing, oftentimes when we talk about some of the more administrative processes of government, as you say, it can be cumbersome, especially for us who have to engage these systems. How does e-recruitment enhance transparency, for instance, and the efficacy as well at a local government level, and the kind of pressure that I think it also alleviates for those who actually have to engage the system on a day-to-day?
Yeah, that's true. Look, we are often conviction that accountability and transparency improves the culture of service delivery. You would know that government is usually accused of transparency and openness. And by introducing such a system, we are in a way going to be overshadowing such a perspective that would find amongst community members. With this, and you ought to get real-time reviews of when an application would be real-time application duration as well. So amongst other things which are available through such a platform. And I think and can only hope that this will go a long way in restoring much needed public confidence in our recruitment systems, so that these allegations which are usually there can actually be outdone.
The other thing that I want to find out as well, Dumsani, is the accessibility of this platform, especially for rural applicants, right? We know that in Mpumalanga, for instance, I can almost render the guess that a vast majority of your citizens don't have connectivity.
Yeah, but contrary to that, Bridget, data indicates that 74.7%, if I'm not mistaken, South Africans actually have access to the internet. And if I recall well, this is as early as 2004. You are correct, we are a rural municipality, but the majority of our people do have access to the internet. So in terms of enhancing in those areas whereby we might not have that luxury of being connected to the web, there are public libraries which are available in the municipality, and there's free Wi-Fi which is available for our communities there too. Yeah.
Turnaround times for filing vacancies, especially in those critical service areas. What are you expecting the impact of the e-recruitment platform to be?
We have been able to improve our turnaround time frame in the current administration. We're quick to fill positions. I think an ordinary position wouldn't take us more than 2 months to fill, and I think that's a massive improvement, given that our vacancy rate has been able to drop from a 19% odd to just less than 3% currently. So with this, we'll be able to enhance our systems even further, and I'm sure a month and a half at most would be the turnaround time for us to fill any vacant positions applicable there too.
Wonderful. I mean, listen, anytime that we can incorporate innovation and technological advancements to just streamline processes and platforms, I think is a step in the right direction. Dumsani Mahlangu, Municipal Manager of Tembisila Local Municipality, just walking us through their recently, going to be launching quite soon, the e-recruitment platform, which is now integrated into their enterprise content management system. It's fast approaching the top of the hour. In about a minute or so, Ondela is going to come through and she's going to give us the top of the hour news. But then on the other side of 2, we're going to have a conversation with the author of On the Rocks, a memoir of a high-functioning alcoholic. And we are having this conversation about functioning alcoholism. South Africa is said to rank quite high when it comes to alcohol consumption. I forget the numbers now, but we sit there, upper echelon of alcohol consumption. And we thought we'd have this conversation around functioning alcoholism, for instance, and also how do we intervene? How do we intervene as friends, as colleagues who maybe see somebody that does have an alcohol substance problem, perhaps a colleague coming to work consistently, under the influence of alcohol. You've noticed the signs, maybe the character a little bit, the cracks here and there in their efficiency, but they're still functioning. They're still functioning at an ordinarily high level and still delivering at, a level of great success. But there's a problem. What do we do? So we'd love to hear from you. 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. 2 o'clock on the dot.
Thank you, Bridget. Top stories at 2. NSFAS called out for cancelling accommodation payments and tensions escalate between Pakistan and India. For SAFM News, I am Ondalambana, and a very good day. The Portfolio Committee on Higher Education has lashed out at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme for cancelling accommodation payments for students residing in unregistered private residences. This follows a decision taken by NSFAS last month to stop transactions for students living in unregistered properties. Members of different political parties were united in lambasting the scheme. The committee chairperson, Tebogo has described the method used by the scheme as clumsy and unfair to students who have already signed leases for the year.
Those who are unaccredited must be punished. But when you punish them on the 7th of March, in the middle of the term or the semester, at the end of the trimester, first trimester, we are creating a problem because we have students who are staying and signing leases at those unaccredited because it's what you have done all the years. So they sign. When you take it to 2.5, somebody must pay for it. And it will be this child that your system says they are SASSA beneficiaries, there's no one at home working. Now we are creating a situation where at the end, these students will not graduate because they owe an institution.
National Police Commissioner Fani Masamula says he will study the report on the acquittal of 8 members of Deputy President Paul Mashatile's VIP Presidential Protection Unit. It emerged yesterday that the police officers have been cleared by an internal police disciplinary process. They are out on 10,000 rand bail each. They face several charges including assault, malicious damage to property and pointing of firearm. This after a video surfaced of them allegedly assaulting civilians on the N1 highway in Johannesburg in 2023. They have since returned to work after their disciplinary hearing. Masamula says he will give an update of the after studying the report following their acquittal.
I learned of that. As I said yesterday, I will study the report. Together, myself and the legal service will study that report of the presiding officer. And we will then update the nation in terms of what we find and what is the way forward.
South Africa will face natural gas shortages from next year despite the country's vast underground gas discoveries. Petroleum Agency of South Africa acting CEO Dr. Bongani Saidini says gas has been discovered in South Africa between 2019 and 2020. However, experts say this may not help the country in curbing the looming shortage of natural gas used by local manufacturers. South Africa is currently depending on gas from Mozambique that is close to ending its gas lifestyle cycle. Saidini was speaking in a panel discussion at the Wits Gas Symposium today.
We have not found gas in this country, not in commercial quantities. I have just demonstrated and articulated the fact that gas was found in 2019-2020 through the Brelpada and Leipert wells by Total Energies and partners, gas that is that is now held by Main Street with technical partners in Africa Energy. We've got their representatives here. Those are discoveries.
The Portfolio Committee on COCTA in the Gauteng legislature is holding discussions on the Independent Municipal Demarcation Authority bill in Johannesburg today. The bill seeks to repeal and replace the existing Municipal Demarcation Act. It aims to align the act to enhance transparency, public participation and financial sustainability in municipal boundary determinations. COCTA Committee Chairperson Mzi Kumalo says the meeting will also address critical gaps in public participation during demarcation processes.
Key discussion points will include the socio-economic impact of municipal measures such as service delivery disruptions and financial viability challenges which have historically sparked public unrest, as seen in cases like Vuani Malumulela and the Tshwane measure, including the Merafong. The roundtable will address critical gaps in public participation during demarcation processes, where communities often feel excluded from decisions that directly affect their governance and resources.
Pakistan's National Security Committee is discussing the next steps following a dramatic overnight escalation in tensions with India. This after Indian missiles struck alleged terrorist camps on Pakistani territory, the BBC's Samira Hussain reports.
Indian military officials said it successfully destroyed all 9 training camps it targeted in the overnight strikes. The 25-minute operation was preemptive as well as retaliatory. The government said it has credible intelligence that another strike in Indian-administered Kashmir was imminent. It says the attacks were measured, proportionate, and done in a way so as not to escalate tensions between the two countries. Claims Pakistan rejects.
Recapping the top story, the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education has lashed out at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme for cancelling accommodation payments for students residing in unregistered private residences. I am Mondolambana for SFM News Headlines at 2:30.
Marawai, why did you think a plastic bag and tape was a solid window replacement after that smash and grab? And why does it sound like a kite every time you hit Puma 60Ks? Marawai, why aren't you insured with Santam, the insurer that covers theft or attempted hijacking? Get your car covered online in just 2 minutes or SMS cover to 36101. Santam. This is freedom. T's and C's apply. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
The Saints understand it's too late to change things around, but it's never too late to beat defending champions and bow with pride.
He chips the goalkeeper! It's an absolute beauty! It's an absolute beauty from Vincent.
However, the citizens are forced to settle for a top 3 finish. They want nothing but 3 vital points.
Magnificent goal. Well, Phil Foden is still in a heap near the halfway line, but credit Andy Madley. He allowed City to continue.
This is the Premier League. Experience the superb battle between Southampton FC and Manchester City FC on Saturday 10 May at 3:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Ashraf Gada on SAFM.
How it all started, because it's not just your father, right? There were people involved in putting together the very, very first group 65 years ago. So,
no, our father started the group in 1969. He got a dream that he has to go and recruit his cousins and his brothers to start his own group, so that because he had visions, he had dreams of how this music should be sung.
Homeless, with moonlight sleeping on a midnight lake.
You're listening to the National Pulse. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. You are listening to The Full Circle.
Actually, I'm no hell,
Lalose Lifatsi is the name of this particular song, giving you a little bit of that jazzy soul. We launched the Joy of Jazz last week, right? Very excited because we've got some exciting things coming up with our sister station Radio 2000 ahead of that come the springtime. So I can't remember if, I think she is on the lineup. Onambira. Was it last year? Oh, okay. It was last year. Right. So let's have this conversation now. South Africa, we know we have a high rate of alcohol consumption. We rank amongst the world's largest per capita of consumers. We actually spent 7.7 billion rands on alcohol between the week of December 25th, 2024 to the 1st of January 2022. In a week, we spent 7.7 billion rands on alcohol. So we wanted to have this conversation around high-functioning alcoholism in various areas of, apologies, I've got the hiccups now, in various areas of our lives, from the workplace to the home to just other spaces that one occupies. And what would be the real and long-term impact, right, of you being a functional alcoholic, and maybe some of the signs that we should be looking out for as community, as a person's community, friends, family, colleagues. What are some of those signs? So Tando Patu wrote the book On the Rocks, Memoir of a High-Functioning Alcoholic, and Tando is here to share some of their personal journey and perspective, and also maybe just you know, the lessons that came from this experience. How are you doing this afternoon, Tando?
I'm well. How are you, Bridget? Thank you for having me.
I'm awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for the time. Before, or maybe let's start by defining what would be a high-functioning alcoholic, or even not high-functioning, just a functioning alcoholic.
Okay, so just to give the context, I came across the term when I was in therapy, and I was in denial about my alcoholism. And my therapist explained it to me that, you know, alcoholism is a spectrum, is a spectrum. There's a spectrum of alcoholism. And where I was on the high functioning side. So I had an idea or a picture of what an alcoholic is like. So I didn't think I was that. So I think a lot of us think, when we think of alcoholism, we think that somebody who drinks every day, who drinks all day, doesn't go to work, has lost their jobs, you know, has been rejected by their family. But in my case, I was drinking afterwards. So I had a very demanding job. You know, I was in a senior position. You know, I was from an international company. I was going to work. I was doing the things. You know, I was performing. I, you know, owned a beautiful home. I had all the trappings of what looked like a successful life. But after hours, you know, I would drink a lot by myself, and I could drink a bottle and a half an evening. And I was, you know, two bottles. But by the time I got halfway through the second bottle, I was usually quite drunk and I passed out. And I would wake up hungover, I would get myself together, and I'd go to work and I'd do it again. And in social settings, when I drank, I was never flat out drunk, stumbling about, causing a scene or embarrassing myself.
Yeah.
So I didn't, to the outside world, have, you know, present as, you know, an alcoholic. People wouldn't think I had a problem because my alcoholism was contained.
Now, when does it move, or when did it move for you, Tando, from, you know, just the drink after work, unwinding a glass to just unwind from a stressful day, to actually now you are knocking back a bottle and a half, 2 bottles almost on a daily? And at what point do you recognize that I think I might have a problem here?
You see, the recognizing the problem is the hardest part. So I think, I had always been a social drinker, and I think before the job I just described, I had another job. So I'd say around 2011, I took on a management position. It was very demanding. It was stressful. It was my first time doing it. And I found myself going home, watching series. And while watching series, 2 or 3 episodes, I could finish a bottle. But I wasn't doing it every night. I was doing it to deal with my feelings of inadequacy and imposter syndrome and anxiety. So, and I got used to it. And at the time, I was, seeing another psychologist who said, listen, I think you may have a problem. And I ignored it, And so that, between that period and 2017, that was about a 6-year period where I just carried on. I just carried on drinking. And in 2017, 2016 in December, I made a decision to take a break, to abstain from drinking for 12 months.
Yeah.
Because I felt it was a little bit out of control. I didn't think I had a problem per se, but I just recognized that I felt like my life had become chaotic and it revolved around drinking. So I took a step back, and this is when I went into therapy and I discovered I had anxiety. I had general anxiety disorder, which led to depressive episodes, and I was actually drinking to try and control that. Because now that I wasn't drinking in 2017, the anxiety presented itself. It was very loud and very clear that I was a deeply, deeply anxious person, and I had to take medication to control it. And even though I discovered in 2017 that I got comfortable with the term, high-functioning alcoholic, I would only then stop in 2020 March during lockdown. So a few days after lockdown was announced, the 30th of March, I stopped drinking.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a drink since.
I want us to just have a quick pause, Thando, and then we'll come back and continue our conversation. And, of course, our WhatsApp is also open if you want to share your journey or perhaps your observations and experiences with someone else that is struggling with alcoholism, but somehow also functioning at this high level that Uthando is describing here, where they are able to go to work, be efficient, hold down their various roles and various tasks. However, they have a problem. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on.
Bafana want to seal their envelope to East Africa with a paramount victory in front of their home fans. But the Flames plan to double the heat. This is the second leg of the final round of the Total Energies CAF Chan 2025 qualifiers. South Africa tackles Malawi on Sunday, 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC2 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
We are in conversation with author of On the Rocks, a memoir of a high-functioning alcoholic. Uthando Patwe joins us. as we have this conversation, navigate our way through this conversation around high functioning alcoholism. And, you know, given the stats of how much South Africans drink, I would venture to say that there's probably a pretty decent number of high functioning alcoholics who maybe just have gone undiagnosed or, or maybe have a sense of where they are at, but the courage to also call a thing is where the danger lies, as young people would say. The interesting part, Tando, is that in your story, you took the sabbatical to not drink in 2017, but you only ultimately really addressed, and, I'll use the word problem, head on in 2020. What was the shift there? What was the shift that finally made you say that actually enough is enough, and I want to be sober in every sense of the word?
Well, so 2018, I went back to drinking, and I tried, I did try to stop, but I think very half-heartedly. And because I was in Joburg, I was in my homes, with my friends, my surroundings. It was challenging to stop, and I also think there was a kind of a lack of commitment, not even a lack of commitment. To stop drinking is very, very difficult, and it is more than willpower that will make you stop. So people think, oh no, you don't have the willpower to stop. No, it's an addiction, and so even though I was in therapy, I didn't know how to do it. And I moved to Cape Town for a job at the end of 2019, and I was living with my mother, and then lockdown happened, and I didn't have access to alcohol, and so I thought this is the opportunity, and I took it, and it was so difficult. It is because every day you want to drink, but you literally are trying not to. And I think being out of my environment, my normal environment of Joburg, friends, access, and almost being sheltered, and it being hard to leave your house, and we understood the lockdown conditions. It allowed me room to build my sober muscle. So, in the book I talk about the journey of the first 6 months, and the anxiety, and just the difficulty of doing it. I found online support groups, and I still continued my therapy. Yeah. And then 6 months became 9 months, and it's a journey that you walk, and you do need community to do it. And it was a decision that I took, that alcohol doesn't serve me. It is causing more chaos and anxiety, than I need. And it was very, very difficult to face that, and to face my demons, and in inverted commas, to do the work.
Absolutely.
Because when you decide to, there's a difference between abstaining and sobriety. Sobriety is a choice that I am not going to drink. This doesn't work for me. I am going to attempt by all means not to do this anymore. Yeah. I'm going to find a community. I'm going to find tools. Whether you do a 12-step program, or you go through AA, or you go through therapy, you are walking a road where you are trying to understand why you need to drink.
Yeah.
Because that is the work that you do. Why do I need this? Why am I so dependent on it?
I think also, one of the things that you sort of mention and allude to about just the difficulty of getting sober is, especially when it comes to alcohol, is because alcohol is so socially accepted. in South African society. And so you have to break that connection with your social settings and be aware of the environments that you're in. I just want to go to WhatsApp as well. We've got, is it Avele in Adelaide, who says, I have a cousin who can't function during the day without having a few and can't sleep without having 2 or 3 beers prior to sleeping. We once called a family meeting for her, but unfortunately she's in denial. Therefore, she sees no problem with herself. Let's also see what else is on your mind.
Good afternoon, Bridget. This is PT from Topeka. With regards to the alcoholism, I can identify with Thando a lot. I can identify a lot with Thando. To cut a long story short, I was a weekend alcoholic. I was drinking from Friday night to Sunday night, and I also didn't thought I had a problem until my life became unmanageable, and then I had to join a fellowship, and then what happened was it was 27 years ago, so ironically now on the 4th of May, now this past Sunday, I celebrated 27 years of sobriety, staying sober. Thank you.
Wonderful. 27 years, no easy feat. Thando, as we wrap it up in our last minute, how would you have liked your community to show up for you on this journey?
How does that community show up to be?
Thando?
Hello?
Yes.
Sorry, I missed the question, Bridget.
No, I was saying in our last minute, as we finish, how would you have liked your community to show up for you in support?
I think my community did the best they could, And again, there were people who were worried about me. My mother particularly was very honest with me. But I think because drinking is so socially acceptable, and people often, when you say, I think I have a problem, people take it as a reflection on themselves. So sometimes your community or your friends are not the best place to seek advice, which is, so if you think you have a problem, I would say try to seek an external, professional or somebody who's experienced to just gauge where you're at.
Yeah.
Because, often friends, especially if you all drink together, are not going to necessarily see that you have a problem. They may not be the best people to counsel you.
Yeah. Thando, thank you so much for sharing your story with us this afternoon, and we wish you the very best of success on your continued journey. Thando Pato is the author of On the Rocks, which is a memoir of a high-functioning alcoholic. It's just gone 2:30. Ondela is standing by with your news headline, and then we'll get into some of our kids' programming.
Thank you, Bridget. On the news headlines, the almost 400 suspended Ekurhuleni Metro Police officers have until this Friday to respond in writing to the pre-dismissal letters issued to them. The Portfolio Committee on Higher Education has lashed out the National Student Financial Aid Scheme for cancelling accommodation payments for students residing in unregistered private residences. And the former U.S. President Joe Biden has warned that pressure from Donald Trump's administration on Ukraine to give up territory to Russia amounts to modern-day appeasement. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle. This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
SABC Education, in partnership with the Department of Health and Dilifa Labantwana, bring you episode 23 of the side-by-side drama focused on preventing serious injuries at home.
Say and say, side by side.
Singama Africa, Kenya, you. Tina. Singama Africa, Kenya, you. Tina. Singama Africa, Kenya, you. Tina.
Lita, pass me the ball. Look how I can dribble, Tabby.
Hey, you children mustn't play there.
Steps, you can't help it. Kids will always be kids.
Sakumzi, I don't like them playing so close to the garden tools. One of them can easily get hurt. This is what I've just been saying.
What just happened?
Sakumzi.
Tabby, baby, what's wrong? What's wrong?
It fell on me.
What did I just
It's okay, baby. It's okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright.
Oh, Sammy.
The spade hit Tabby. It fell on her.
But why did you allow the children to play with the tools? Uncle Sammy.
But I told you.
Do I also need to supervise the two of you? You grown men. Yeah? Sakumzi, what did I tell you about Tabby?
Gogo, I did. I was looking after them.
Then how did this happen? Oh, it's happened, Tanami. Come, my baby. Let's go inside. Ugoko will plaster you. We'll plaster your wounds. Come, Tanami. Lita, come, my baby.
Okay, Gogo, I'm coming.
Hey, Sakumzi.
Now you're going to tell me I told you so.
No. No.
But you'd be right anyway, Prasta. I can't even look after one child, but I want another one. Hey, what kind of father am I? I've been a fool arguing with my wife Joyce over this and that. Hey, Prasteps, why did you just let some sense into me when I said the kids will be fine playing here?
For two reasons, Sakumzi. Number one, if I slapped you, you wouldn't get up and I would have to fix this car on my own. And number two, you've just slept yourself.
I've grown to love Tabby as my own, actually. And she should be enough. She is enough.
Can you come help me peel the potatoes when you're done with your homework, please? You can't spend the whole day in your room.
Okay, Mama.
Come in. Come in. Oh, Mr. McQuaid.
I'm sorry for disturbing. I drove past and I thought I'd drop these groceries off here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. You can give me those.
Imange is doing well at school. Her last test scores put her in top of the class. In fact, I think this year she might come out top student.
Okay, that's good to know.
But yeah, natural sciences marks could do with some improvement. So I thought I have time in the afternoon and I would like to offer her some extra class.
Okay, that's very generous of you.
Is she here?
She's busy at the moment. Was there anything you needed to discuss with her?
No. I just thought I should say hi.
No, that's fine. I'll let her know.
Okay, then. Have a lovely afternoon.
Mr. McQuaid?
Yes.
There's something I've been meaning to ask. Imange has been behaving differently the past week. Did anything happen at school? Anything I should know?
No, not that I know of.
Okay, I got the impression that she was upset with you.
That's not the case. You know, teenagers can be very temporal. They have a lot of temper, especially the girls. Probably the hormones and all. Maybe I just spoke to her loudly. No. Look, I don't know.
Okay, I just thought something might have happened to upset her. Mr. Makwetu, is there anything happening between...
Oh, Mr. Makwetu!
Imange, there you are. Your mother and I were just talking about you, and we thought maybe you could do with some extra lessons at school.
That would be...
Actually, Imange has just started helping out a friend with her baby. I'll let you know if she'll continue with the extra classes.
Okay. Not a problem. Imange, I'll see you at school then.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Why did you say I couldn't go to the extra classes anymore?
I have my reasons.
Mama!
There are the potatoes. Start peeling.
No.
Imange. Hey. Imange. Imange.
Oh, what a day. I'm sorry I'm back so late, Mama. I had a support group meeting. Mama, have Utabi and Lita been bathed yet?
Yes. And they're both in bed. Hey, Sakumzi is reading them a bedtime story.
Oh.
Hey, he got a big fright today. Tabi got hurt. Sakumzi couldn't stop blaming himself.
Aibo, Mama. Is she okay?
Yeah, well, it was just a scratch, nothing major. She cried for a short while, but hey, she's a brave little girl. And Sakumzi immediately started cleaning the backyard. He put all the garden tools away and anything that could endanger the children, tools and chemicals.
Oh, Mama. He's such a good father, eh?
And a good husband.
That he definitely is.
Singama Africa Kenya you Tina.
Join us again tomorrow as we sit down with an expert at 2:30 to further discuss preventing serious injuries at home right here on SAFM.
Side by side.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
The Northwest Legislature Portfolio Committee on Corporate Governance, Human Settlements and Traditional Affairs will be conducting public hearings on Independent Municipal Demarcation Authority Bill 2023 on 7 May 2025 at Legislature Auditorium in Mahikeng, Nakamudiri Mlema District, Sarafina Community Hall and Potchefstroom, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District, Kismet Community Hall in Kismet, Riebeck, Dr. Ruth Sohomutsi Mompati District, and Rustenburg in Old Town Hall, Bujanala District. All hearings start at 10.
This Thursday on EFC, Africa's greatest meet the warriors of Brazil on a night where 3 titles will be contested. Amanda Lino takes on Mariana Salles, Willie Van Rooyen takes on Kleberson Sousa, and in the main event, JC Lamprecht goes to war with Luis Paulo Picanso for the light heavyweight title. EFC 123 live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Sport with Michael Abramson.
Joining us on the line to look ahead to this, our Formula One correspondent, Prince Ndiweni. What do you attribute Piastri's success so far to? Three race wins in the past 5 and seeming to be carrying the fort at the moment, if you'll pardon the expression. And for Lando Norris, it must be a little bit difficult trying to play catch-up, especially given what happened last season, that this was supposed to be his chance to sort of move in and gain the limelight.
It should swing back and forth. I think Lando has a lot of fight in him. There definitely is a lot more to him. But what is sort of in the wind in Piastri's sails, I think his career overall, he's given himself a narrow window to achieve results, and he's come out on top most of the time. He won Formula 3 championship first time of asking. He won the Formula 2 championship first time of asking. By the time he was done Formula 2, he was pretty much the buzzword in Formula 1 paddocks as far as new talents coming on is concerned.
Top Sport on SAFM. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are catching up now with Dr. Manyewu Mutamba, who is the head of agriculture at the African Union Development Agency. And it's Africa Month, so we're having a conversation around what is Africa's vision for the future of agriculture, from production to food processing and trade. Dr. Manyewu, how are you doing this afternoon? How are you?
Yes.
You good?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, Dr. Manyewu, are you good?
I'm very well, thank you.
Great stuff, great stuff. Okay, take us through the extraordinary summit happening in Kampala, that happened in Kampala earlier on this year. And then we'll talk around also just the commitment to the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Plan.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm sure you would have heard of the extraordinary summit that was held in Kampala earlier this year. That was in January. Essentially, it was a summit of African heads of states to review what we call the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program. Essentially, what happened in Kampala is they adopted a new 10-year strategy for the CADA program, essentially a recommitment to a program that has been running for 20 years on the continent. It is the continental blueprint for agricultural development, now with a broader focus on agri-food systems, which is a much more all-encompassing approach that includes all processes from pre-production to production to the distribution, consumption of food. So our heads of states met in Kampala to recommit to that agenda as a critical agenda for Africa's development because of the importance of agriculture and food systems on our continent, for food security, for economic development, for millions of people.
If we have to cast our eyes back to the past 20 years of the program, just perhaps walk us through the commitments that were tabled in the past 2 decades and some of the progress that had been made in as far as those commitments and the conversation at hand.
Yes, so you probably would have known that the CADA program started in 2003 when our heads of states met in Maputo, Mozambique. That's where the CADA program was founded on the Maputo Declaration. At that time, the thinking was if we could grow agriculture at about 6%, we would solve a number of issues facing the continent, including food security, including poverty. And for that to happen, our heads of states agreed that we need to allocate at least 10% of our national budgets to driving agriculture. 10 years later, there was quite a bit of progress with respect to improved investment in agriculture following the Maputo Declaration. But 10 years later, when the heads of states met again in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, they reviewed progress that had been made in the first 10 years, and they agreed to extend for another 10-year period the commitment to CADAP. At that time, they added a much broader focus on a number of issues. So they agreed to 7 commitments that we called at the time we called the Malabo CADAP commitment. So there were commitments in 7 areas, essentially to end hunger, to have poverty, and all of those commitments were up to 2025. They also committed to working towards tripling intra-Africa trade. They also committed to investing in building resilience, because at that time the threat of climate change had become a big problem, and it was really affecting progress with respect to transforming our agricultural system. So those are some of the commitments that were made in the last 10 years. So we have been tracking progress with respect to those 7 commitment areas of CADAP in the last 10 years. We have produced 4 what we call biannual review reports that are presented to heads of states every 2 years. What those have revealed is that we've made a lot of progress since Maputo, but there's still a lot of work to be done. We are much better off with respect to levels of investment that are going into agriculture and related sectors.
No, I think
we have also seen better levels of organization with respect to how our sectors are organized, the planning processes that are related to that, the capacities that are supporting that. But obviously there's a lot of work to be done still. We still have unacceptably high levels of food insecurity, malnutrition, stunting, and similar challenges. That's why in January our heads of states agreed that we need a new 10-year phase, which is now called the Kampala Declaration, and its strategy to deliver on a much broader focus of issues, but sustaining momentum from the last 20 years.
Dr. Manyewu, I want to just take a quick break here, and then we'll come back and we'll drill deeper into some of the Kampala declarations that have come out from the Ordinary Summit. It's just gone 10 to 2 o'clock on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
The wait is over. I've been hustling, grinding, and now it's time for the glow up you've been waiting for. Unapologetically, made the bay. From the grind to the glam. Anelezondo The Glow Up on Saturdays at 8 p.m. only on SABC 1, Mzansi, for sure.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply. The Northwest Legislature Portfolio Committee on Corporate Governance, Human Settlements and Traditional Affairs will be conducting public hearings on Independent Municipal Demarcation Authority Bill 2023 on 7 May 2025 at Legislature Auditorium in Mahikeng, Nakamudiri District, Sarafina Community Hall and Potchefstroom, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District, Kismet Community Hall in Kismet, Riebeck, Dr. Ruth Sohomutsi Mompati District, and Rustenburg in Old Town Hall, Bujanala District. All hearings start at 10.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are in conversation with Dr. Manyewu Mutambe, who is the head of agriculture at the African Union Development Agency, and he's walking us through the extraordinary summit that happened in Kampala in January earlier this year that spoke to the recommitment to the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program. And of course, in the first half of our conversation, we're just reflecting back on those first 20 years of the program, which set out with a few goals in mind that needed to be achieved within that that time frame, having agreed on 7 commitments in 7 areas. And Doc, you spoke about building resilience as being one of those commitments, building resilience due to the climate change crises that Africa finds itself facing, obviously not isolated from the rest of the world. When we sort of reflect back on those commitments, particularly building the resilience in order for us to tackle climate change, in context now of the most recent summit in Kampala, things have changed exponentially by way of environmental conversations. How do we move forward, and how do we also accelerate some of those touch points and those commitments that have been made and perhaps even recommitted this time around?
Thank you. Obviously, climate change has escalated in recent years. So the conversations in Kampala were aware and they were alive to the climate crisis that we face as a continent. So at the end of the day, the agenda to really build resilience to climate remains top of priority list for our heads of states and for the continent. So you will see that the strategic objective number 5 of the new Kampala Declaration speaks to building resilient agri-food systems with the climate crisis in mind. But the conversation also went beyond climate, because essentially resilience speaks to capacity to withstand the impact of shocks and stressors that affect our food systems. The conversation in Kampala, went to gravitated towards broadening that focus to include other shocks. We saw in recent years the impact of shocks like the COVID pandemic, for example, and the Ukraine-Russia conflict, which brought a new dimension to shocks that utterly decimated our food system. So that was on the minds of our heads of state, and as to broaden the focus, of course, to keep the focus on climate, but to broaden the focus for us to do better at preparing for a broader suite of shocks and stressors that face our food systems. So definitely climate remains top of the agenda, but the advice and from our heads of states in Kampala was to broaden that focus so that we are better prepared for a wider suite of shocks that are really decimating our food systems. So that was the agreement in Kampala, but certainly climate remains top of the agenda with respect to resilience building.
Now, we know that Africa's population is projected to reach somewhere in the region of 2.5 billion people by 2050, right? How do we continue to meet demand when it comes to significant increases, whether by way of agricultural production, whether we're looking at food processing, and of course trade amongst different African regions? Doc? Dr. Manyewu?
Yes, I'm still with you.
Yes, I was saying, I don't know if you
Yes,
caught
I
that.
can hear you.
I was saying, with Africa's population projected to reach 2.5 billion people by 2050, how do we continue to meet the demand, especially when we're looking at agricultural production, food processing, and of course trade amongst the various African regions?
Yes. No, definitely we are seeing exponential growth in our population as a continent. To me, it's an opportunity, but it's also something that we need to take very seriously when it comes to planning for it, and especially ensuring that we have enough food, because we already have a food security challenge on our continent. So with respect to the Kampala declaration, you would see that there was a lot of emphasis on intensifying sustainable production of food for the continent, with the specific objective of obviously ensuring our yields are better. Our yields have been stagnant for too long, so the objective is to increase yields of our major food crops. But the intent is to do that in a way that is sustainable, in a way that doesn't damage the environment. But obviously, the challenge is also to ensure that the food that we produce is not lost. So the focus on reducing post-harvest loss, because I'm sure you may have come across statistics that show that up to 30 to 40% of the food we produce in the continent is lost during post-harvest because of various reasons. So there's an emphasis to limit those losses as much as possible, but also to accelerate with respect to processing, value addition, storage and preservation of food, which plays a huge role in ensuring that we have adequate food and food of good quality.
Yeah.
To safely feed our population.
Dr. Manyewu, we have to leave it there for this afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. And that is where we wrap it up, handing over to Ashraf and his team. They will be taking over between 3 and 6 o'clock, I'm sure, no doubt. So much on the agenda there by way of conversations. From us, we'll see you tomorrow. We thank you for choosing to be in our company once again. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again.
Hi, I'm Zycard. Catch me every Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Spotlight as we bring you blow-by-blow sporting action, news. That's Spotlight every Saturday. You don't want to miss it.
Thank you, Bridget. And the team top stories at 3. Suspended Metro cops urged to reply to pre-dismissal letters, and NSFAS called out for cancelling accommodation payments. For SAFM News, I am Ondilambana, and a very good afternoon. The almost 400 suspended Ekurhuleni Metro police officers have until this Friday to respond in writing to the pre-dismissal letters issued to them. The 389 officers were suspended for participating in an illegal strike where they blocked highways using state vehicles in March this year. They were protesting over increased pay and improved working conditions. The city's Phakamile Mbengashe says the pre-dismissal process is to allow for representations from the workers and as well as assessing each case on its merits and level of remorse demonstrated.
The city also issued a strong warning against threats targeting officers who continue to report for duty, escalating these incidents to the SAPS and the Hawks for investigation. Mayor Kagaza reaffirmed the city's commitment to law enforcement, public safety and constructive dialogue within labour forums.
The Portfolio Committee on Higher Education has lashed out at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme for cancelling accommodation payments for students residing in unregistered private residences. This follows a decision taken by NSFAS last month to stop transactions for students living in unregistered properties. Members of different political parties were united in lambasting the scheme. The committee chairperson Tebogo Letsi has described the method used by the scheme as clumsy and unfair to to students who have already signed leases for the year.
Those who are unaccredited must be punished. But when you punish them on the 7th of March, in the middle of the term or the semester, at the end of the trimester, first trimester, we are creating a problem because we have students who are staying and signed leases at those unaccredited because it's what you have done all the years. So they sign. When you take it to 2.5, somebody must pay for it. And it will be this child that your system says, they are SASSA beneficiaries, there's no one at home working. Now we are creating a situation where at the end, these students will not graduate because they owe an institution.
The following story may be upsetting to listeners. The Judicial Conduct Tribunal has heard that Judge President Selby Mbenenge interpreted in the rolling of the floor laughing emoji response by Judge Secretary Andy Swamengo as saying she was not willing to being intimate